Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Luli and I'm an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets here every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church at 301 North Main Street at 8:30 p.m. in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teaching of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, just simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name only? Yes.
Jim, I'm alcoholic.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Trick. Hey, Fred. Hi, Leslie. Hi, Dave. Hi, Naomi. Hi, Dave. Was that two Daves that just said that? Okay. From over here? Yeah. Hey, Pete. Hi, Dave. Anybody else? Hey, Wayne. Hi, Kevin. Okay. Anybody else? Hello. Welcome. Is that it? Okay. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Okay, so if you don't have a sponsor, please see one of these people afterwards. It's a lifeline. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? No? Okay. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will provide you one free of charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books or CDs to help those who can't afford them, please put the donations in the jar and the back table. If you would like a CD of any of the speakers, past or present, please see Ron after the meeting. They're available free of charge, and there's a really wide selection. So I have asked B to come up and read the preamble.
Hi, I'm B. I'm an alcoholic. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. And we have Katie who will read the 12 steps.
Hi, my name's Katie and I'm an alcoholic. Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10. Continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him, only praying for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
So we have a 7th tradition. Every AA group should be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'd like to pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees, but we do have expenses. Coffee, cream, donuts, rent, big books and CDs, Tim's ham sliders, and also all the other food that Annette and Ron provide as well. There's absolutely no smoking on church property. Please don't do so. And if we can, please silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. And so now it's time to introduce our speaker. She comes to us from the Bud Light Speaker Group of Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Please help me welcome a very good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, Ms. Jane C.
Big meeting. Hi guys. Oh, look at a little pedestal. And a microphone. Okay. Hi, my name is Jane Calcine and I'm an alcoholic. And thanks for having me out, Ron. Thanks for having me out. We had quite a little trip. Well, I'll qualify myself first. My sobriety date is November 15th of 2000. I do have a home group. It is the Bud Light Speakers Group. And I'm missing it tonight to be with you guys, and that's okay, every once in a while. I have a sponsor. Her name is Sammy G. from Richmond, Virginia. She's powerful, and she's the first woman I've ever was able to be very vulnerable with. You know, because I'm tough, and I'm a badass, and I can't be vulnerable, you know, and she's tougher. So that was good for me. I sponsor other women. One of them came with me tonight. I have a great group of girls in my life. Girls I've sponsored for a really long time, and we were just talking about like the group of women that is in my sobriety, my family, and I love them, you know. I love being able to connect with women like that today. I couldn't for a long time. You know, I liked men, you know. I could relate to men. I liked partying with men. I liked hanging out with men. I liked having sex with men. I like men. You know what I mean? Women had very little use in my life. You know, unless you could get me more men, we don't really need to hang out. So, and today that's not the case, you know, which is great. We came flying up here. We had to have Chick-fil-A, AKA Christian chicken. And you know, I hadn't eaten, I booked this 6 months ago. And you always book something, and then when it comes up, you have other plans, you're like, oh my God, okay. So my boyfriend lives in Coatesville. We were at Westchester at a game, so it worked out really well. But I'm I've been at a football game all day. I changed. He's a Corvette mechanic. I changed in the Corvette shop. You know what I mean? I'm driving. I'm trying to get here going 80 miles an hour, but God said, no, you're going to go 40 behind this Toyota. And I kept telling Katie, I'm like, they're just saving me from a ticket. Just saving me from a ticket. I got to tell myself this, or I will lose my mind, right? I'm like, he's just old. He's just really old. Just trying to get home, right? I tell myself that. And then finally he gets off and I zoom past him. And Katie's like, oh yeah, he's old. You know? So. But that's nice today because I don't have to tell him off. So I'll tell you a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like today, what I'm like. I grew up in Jersey. Doesn't make me alcoholic, just gives me an interesting twist to my personality. I'm a Jersey girl. My mom is a member of this fellowship. She's been sober since 1969. And so I never know how many years she really is, because I'm like, who cares at this point, you know, whatever. You're in the 40-somethings. She cares, but I don't. You know, but she's really cool. She's like 77, and she hangs out in York AA. You know, you'll see her if you come down to York. She goes by Miss Pat, and she loves the young people. She likes to make you egg salad sandwiches and stuff, and she keeps busy. You know, she does. AA has, I think me coming into Alcoholics Anonymous kind of revived her program again, you know, and that's kind of a whole other story that I don't want to get into tonight, but, and I've had a love-hate relationship with my mother, you know, since I came out of the womb. You know, it wasn't, I don't ever really remember liking her that much, ever. And since in the last 10 years, that relationship has changed. Now, not to say we don't have very strong personalities, and sometimes they don't, you know, clash a little bit, but we have a lot more principle in our relationship today, and that's amazing. And I was taught to honor her, you know, and I didn't know how to honor anyone, and I didn't know how to honor my mother at all, you know. I had a lot of gripes and a lot of, you don't understand, and you know what I mean. And through my course in recovery, if I wanted to recover, I had to learn how to do those things. So let me tell you a little bit about my drinking, because I loved it. I loved alcohol. I loved getting drunk. I loved Heinekens. I loved vodka. I loved all of it. And when I discovered booze, I was like 12 or 13. My best friend, we raided her mom's liquor cabinet. All I remember is it relieved some boredom for me. It was good, you know. And I remember kind of thinking, I want to do that again, you know. And from that point on, it was like I became preoccupied with how I was going to get that drink, you know. And you start making decisions about how you're going to get that drink, you know. So I'm 12 or 13, and I'm a good volleyball player. I'm a good dancer, you know. I have things going on in my life, but all of a sudden those things don't really seem as important. What really seems important is that I want to hang out with Allison's brother, because Allison's brother gets Bush beer on the weekends, and I want to get some Bush beer, you know. You get Bush beer and a pack of Marlboro Reds for $5. That was like the life, you know? And I would, you know, so that was all I cared about. So I started drinking. And I wasn't a daily drinker. I wasn't a daily drinker at 13, but by the time I was 16, I was a daily drinker. I was a full-blown alcoholic by the time I was a sophomore in high school. I would bring in gallons of White Russians into school and say that they were chocolate milk. They believed me. I mean, I think now you can't get away with that. But in 1990, like, nobody was paying attention, you know? And so I gave up everything. I gave up volleyball, I gave up dancing. I think I started cheering because I just had to look cute and bounce around and stuff. But eventually I got kicked off the squad because I wasn't an example. I got caught drunk in school. I had an affair with a wrestling coach. I started, beating the shit out of other students. That kind of stuff, where they just didn't like that, you know? And I, and with the drink became this, like, I had to, like, put on this, like, persona, man. And I liked that attention. I wore my hair, like, up to here. We're Jersey. It's a science. It's like a wing and a spray, and then there's like a blow dryer thing that you do here. You know what I mean? And I wore black, cat eyes, and my nails were out to here, and I wore this black biker jacket, and I was a badass. And if you looked at me, I was like, what? Like, what? And needless to say, I didn't have the grades, but they were like, just get her out of high school, like, just graduate her. And so they did. And I I graduated, I barely graduated. I couldn't get into any college. My dad was very educated, he was a lawyer. I could not get in any, no, they were like, we don't want her, like at all. Nobody wanted me. So he taught law at Fairleigh Dickinson. It's called Fairleigh Dickinson. I call it fairly ridiculous. But he taught law there, and he pulled some strings, and I wasn't actually technically allowed on campus. There was like an off building where they send you if you're not quite ready for college. But, you know, and I couldn't even cut it there. I went there for a couple of weeks. And here's the thing, I loved men. I love men. I never liked boys. I skipped boys, men. You know, and I was a stalker. Now you gotta understand, when I was young, I wasn't very good. So I scared people. As I got older, I honed that skill. And I've gotten much better. So I was, I couldn't get a date because they were scared. And, but I had a group of guys that I hung out with, when I was young, when I was in high school. And they ranged from like 21 to 28, They're like the crew that still hangs out with like the high school girls. You might be one of those guys. I get it, And those guys taught me how to drink, man. You know what I mean? And they got me what I wanted, and I gave them what they wanted. And I was totally fine with that, because I was getting drunk. I was learning how to drink. And I felt protected in some way, like I was taken care of, So, like I said, I never had a boyfriend because I really wasn't that type of girl. So I'm at this party. Now you gotta understand, as you get older, you're in high school, the parties are like, there's kegs and there's people and there's conversation and there's like, yeah. By the time I'm 19 years old, the kind of party I go to is about 4 or 5 of you. It's around a table, you're playing cards, everybody's sweating. Somebody gets up one too many times to the bathroom and it's like, you're all suspicious. Like, what's going on? Everybody's a little paranoid, So I'm at a New Year's Eve party just like that, ringing in the new year with some random dudes in Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is right over the bridge from New York City, which is a place in Washington Heights, right in New York City, that the Colombians live and you can get whatever you want. So Fort Lee was the kind of place I like to hang out in. So I'm at this party, and we're sitting around, and the guy says, he's like, listen, everybody be cool, because my cousin's coming, and he doesn't party. You're ever in that situation, you're like, okay, be cool. Like, you just are like, get me out of here, man, like now. So it was cool. So this guy walks in, right? And he's got ripped jeans and work boots, and he's got a Metallica shirt on, and it's ripped here at the sleeves. He's got muscles, he's got long, shaggy hair, and I'm like, what's up? Because I'm in love. He's a scumbag, just my type. And I thought, this guy's ready to party. And what he does was, he says, you know what, I have to get up tomorrow morning, I'm not gonna drink, I was like, no. And I was like, what? And that kind of threw me off a little bit, and I started watching him through the night. And I started going to the bathroom a little less, and I convinced him that I was a nice girl, and that he should take me out, And really soon after that, we started dating, and he took me out, and he was 24, I was 19, he was a truck driver for a construction company. And we went out, and we went back to his mom's house where he lived, and he was a good dude. I really, I think he helped his mom out really more than he was really a hindrance. And we went back there, man, and I slept over, and I didn't leave. Because see, I found the one that I was gonna marry. And here's the thing about me and my disease, okay? Because up until that point, I drank daily. I found other things, that took me out of me. But up until this point, I never found love, and I was in love. And I was gonna show this guy that I was it. And see, I've always wanted to be in love. I didn't know that, but when I met it, that's what I wanted. So you know what I did? I took the drink, and I was like, I'm done. And I took everything else, and I said, I'm done. And what I didn't know then, and I know now, is that when I take those things out of me, when I take those things away from me, that's when my disease is glaring. It's not that I remove those things and then I'm like, okay, I'm good now. You know, what happens to me, man, is I go crazy. I have no solution, you know? So I sit up in his house, and man, I love this guy. Because I know those things on the first date. So I sit at his house, man, and he goes off to work, you know? And I'm waiting. And this is 1993, we don't have cell phones, you know? So what I do is I call him on my landline, if you don't know what that is. And I call him, and I have to call him to the office, and they CB him, and then he has to pull over and call me on a payphone. We used to have those too. And he'd call me on a payphone, and he'd be like, hey babe, how are you, what's up? And I'd be like, nothing. He'd be like, you all right? I'd be like, yeah. Do you love me? You're like, yeah, I love you. Is this an emergency? No. When are you coming home? I'll be home off, when I'm off. Okay, love you. Okay, love you. Bye. I did that 4 times a day, easily. You know? He'd come home, you know, and this is me without a drink. This is me without a solution. See, because what I didn't know then, what I know now is I have an obsession of the mind. And I don't care what it is. I'm going to obsess about it. And he was it. I didn't have the drink to obsess about. I didn't have anything else to obsess about. He was it. So when he came home, I was like, hey, me. Am I cute? Am I hot? Am I good? Do I look good? Am I fat? Am I good? Am I good? Do you love me? Am I hot? Do you love me? How much? You know? And here's the thing. In the beginning, he would say all the right things. I love you. You're beautiful. But see, I have this disease that's so loud I can't hear that. You know? I can't hear anything you're saying. All I hear is my head. I'm not good enough. I'm not beautiful. You know? And after a while, man, I was sucking the life out of that guy. We'd go out, you know, and he'd see a beautiful girl walk in, and I'd see a beautiful girl walk in because I'm scoping competition, you know what I mean? I got her right off the bat, you know, like, zoop, you know, don't you look at her, and then he looks at her, and I'm like, oh, you're sleeping with her? You know? And then I'm dragging her out by her hair, you know? Because I know what's up because I'm a mind reader, and I know everything. And that's what this disease does to me. It tells me I'm a psychic and a mind reader. It does. It tells me I know everything. My disease tells me if I think it, it's true. It's true. And you're not going to tell me anything different because I know. That's been one of the biggest recovery lessons. Learning how to be teachable and realizing I have no idea. And I was very unteachable. You know, I've got a 9-year-old just like me, man, teaching me how to drive the other day. I'm like, you know what, you got this. Why don't you drive? So I was unteachable. So this guy, I sucked the life out of this guy. And I tell this story for a reason, because I wanted this relationship so bad. And you know, after 3 months, he was like, you need to go. Like, you know, and I was so devastated, and I didn't understand why, you know? But man, I sucked the life out of this guy. So after 3 months, I got in my car, and I decided to go to California, because that seemed like a good idea. So I packed up my 82 Honda hatchback on Route 80, and I headed out west. My dad was dating a lady in San Francisco. He's like, why don't you go out there and see what she's doing? I was like, all right. I arrived in San Francisco to my soon-to-be stepmother, who was a raging alcoholic herself. She has long since passed from this disease. And she was just ecstatic to have a drinking buddy. She gave me my fake ID, said, here, I got this for you. I was like, hello, mother. I am home. And I proceeded to hit the San Francisco scene like crazy, man, and I loved it. I spent 5 years out in the San Francisco Bay Area. I traveled around. I've traveled with a band. I've disappeared for a few years there. I was up for those years. You know, I was a shaman, found truth, lost truth, wrote a book, you know, mastered some things, you know what I mean? Just absolutely out of my mind, man, you know? And when you're up for like 3 years, you get sleep deprivation. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but that's nuts, man. You're really out of touch with reality. You really don't know what's going on, you know? And I was real sick. I was sick to the point where, I was in the hospital at one point. My body had just given out on me. And I remember the doctor, I'll never forget her. She said, and I was 21 years old. And she said, how much do you drink? And at this point, I'm living in Sonoma County, you know? And I'm getting into wine, you know? Because, and I worked in the restaurant business. So I had been bussing tables since I was 14. I worked my way up to a fine dining server. I was a fine dining server. I did tableside shit. I was important, you know. And at that point, but here's the thing: I only stayed at a job for about a year, because that's when they kind of noticed that things would go missing. I had a habit of not bringing things in like bottles of wine, you know. I found ways to support myself in other ways because I felt I deserved it. I work hard. They make me come in at 4 and roll silverware. You know, I would find things, you know, I did not think that me, had to do anything. You know, why do I have to do that? Why do I need to do that? Why? I thought I was above it. I thought I was beyond it. You know? So I don't even know where I'm at. Oh, I'm at this doctor, and my kidneys, my liver had shut down. She said, how much do you drink? And I'm like, well, you know, like 2 glasses of stuff. Wine. I'm drinking wine. Very, very wine, Merlot. And she said, no, you don't. She said, she's like, your kidneys and liver are like a 60-year-old woman who's been drinking. And she goes, and if you keep going the way you're going, you're going to be dead in 10 years. And I knew she was telling me the truth, because at that moment, my grandmother came into my mind, and she was dead at 42 from cirrhosis. My grandfather jumped off the 59th Street Bridge. My mom's an alcoholic, my dad's an alcoholic. I come from a long line of alcoholism, except for my aunt who married one. But other than that, we're riddled with it. Now, does that make me alcoholic? No. I've come across a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous who do not have, you know, they have like a cousin once removed or something, you know. This just happens to be my story. So I knew that in that moment she was telling me the truth. So I went home and I said, I am not going to drink anymore. And my roommate was like, good for you. Because my roommate knew what I was. You know, she had to peel me out of situations. She had to rescue me. I got myself in all kinds of binds. I love jumping into cars with men that I didn't know and taking off to states that I shouldn't be in, you know. And I sat on that couch as I recovered 3 to 4 days, and I started to get thirsty. And I started to tell myself, you know, I think it's just the red wine. It's just the sulfites. I can't process them. And I think if I drink tequila, I'll be just fine. And within 4 or 5 days, within that 5th day, I was drinking tequila. I was fine. I was like, I feel great. No problem here. Like, I don't even know why we're getting all excited, like near death, you know? And that is the way that I drank. And needless to say, I came back from California very sick. I got in I always was in a relationship, you know, always. I was never without a guy, because I didn't want to be alone. Honestly, I didn't want to take responsibility for anything. I needed somebody to blame along the way, and that's what I did. If I was unhappy, it was your fault. It was very easy. If I needed half the rent to pay, hello, you know, everything was about me. I was in a very abusive relationship, where it was to the point of, I was hospitalized. And that was back when the OJ thing was happening. So they automatically pressed charges. They started pressing charges in that stage because of what happened to Nicole Simpson and stuff like that. And he got off, and that's okay. Let me tell you something about that relationship. As bad as it was, as abused as I was getting, I showed up for it every day. And even when I had the out, I went back. See, because I didn't think very highly of myself. And see, what I'm learning now, what I didn't know then is, man, when I was sucked and drawn into something, I was so powerless over it. I was so powerless over it. And that I thought that was meant to be because I was drawn into that. And I'm going to share a lesson with you I'm learning today about that in my life a little bit later, so try to remind me, okay? Okay. I got out of California with all my teeth, so I was really happy about that. And I got to Jersey, and I started to recover. I slept, and I started to recover from that kind of journey I went on for the last 5 years. My mom didn't know where I was. Nobody knew where I was. I was really out there. And I thought, you know what? I have a problem with drugs. And I went to that fellowship that you go to when you have a problem with drugs. I had no desire to stop drinking. And what the book tells me is that the great obsession of every alcoholic is to learn how to control and enjoy his drinking. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn how to control and enjoy my drinking. But what I didn't know is that when I control my drinking, I am definitely not enjoying it. And when I enjoy the way that I drink, I have no control. And what I didn't know, that I know now, is have you ever watched a normal person drink? And they have one or two, and they're like, oh, I'm tired. I'm like, oh, no, I can't. Stop. I'm always trying to get them drunk, too. I'm like, have another one. But what happened to me is when I put alcohol into me, as soon as that hits my body, it has a different chemical reaction in me. That's what the book talks about, that allergy, than it does in normal people. See, because my mind goes, what's up? It's awake. It's like, hey, oh my God, welcome back. What are you doing? Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? It loves to go places. I wake up, I'm on fire, I'm like, yeah, let's dance, let's go, you know what I mean? When you see normal people drink, they're not like that. That's not how they react to alcohol, And I would hear things like the first drink gets you drunk. I remember when I was new, I'd be like, oh my God, will you shut up? It's like the 17th, shut up. It would just annoy me, that saying. And then, I sat in the rooms for a while, and they said, and when I figured out the phenomenon of craving, that the first drink got me drunk, it was once that hit my lips, once my mind woke up, once that feeling hit, it was on. I'm not stopping. I have to have another, and I have to have another. And it doesn't end. Not until something way outside stops me, like handcuffs. Whatever that is, And that was the way I like to drink, That's the kind of alcoholic I am, Book talks about a lot of different types. Book talks about people that can stop. I've sponsored a few of those girls, but I've stopped. And I'm like, but how's your life? They're completely and totally unmanageable. Because drinking wasn't my problem. And that relationship with Billy when I was 19 years old was a prime example of when I took alcohol out of me, what happened to me. What happened to my mind, what happened to my thoughts. I couldn't do anything. I remember I had a job when I met him. I was a waitress at a biker bar called Nichols Alley in Paramus. And I quit. He didn't tell me to quit, but I quit because I needed to be home waiting for him. It seemed like a perfectly logical thing to do, to quit my job and wait at his house. So I come back, I go to the other fellowship. I'm not willing to do anything they ask me to do. I'm not willing to get sober. I'm not willing to do much. I'm not willing to not work in restaurants. I'm not willing to give up things, people, friends. It's not like I had a lot of friends, but don't ask me to. Don't ask me to do anything. Like I wasn't, like don't tell me what to do, And needless to say, I picked up a drink really short after there, and I got a job in a restaurant business. And at this point, I had relocated to Pennsylvania, which we are in now, right? We're in Downington. Where are we? We're in Doylestown. Okay. And I don't know where I am. That's great. But I moved to Shrewsbury, which is right on the Maryland line. And I was living there, I was working back in the restaurants. And here's the thing, I drank the way that I like to drink. And I could have went on like that for a very long time. I positioned my life just right. I had a boyfriend who drank the way that I like to drink. I had a job that tolerated my alcoholism, that tolerated me under the table once in a while, the boss that tolerated that behavior. I had, you know what I mean? I set it up perfectly, until one day it all came crashing down. It always does. On February 5th, 2000, my father died, and it was like that. I haven't talked about my father too much up until now, but as much as I didn't like my mother was as much as I loved my father. I was a daddy's girl. He bailed me out of everything, If I said, hey, I just killed somebody, he would say, where's the body? We'll go take care of it. You know what I mean? He had me. And I don't know, people call that enabling, sure. Okay, we'll go with that, But, to me, it was love. To me, and he respected, I thought he respected me. He was worried for me towards the end there, I remember that. But he still looked at me with a light. Because at this point, people weren't looking at me like that anymore. But my father still looked at me like that. He still looked at me like I was somebody. And I needed that. And when he died, the light inside of me died. And when I was that fun party girl, I became that nasty, crazy girl. That depressive, suicidal girl. My alcoholism took a turn for the worse, and I went on a 9-month bender that to end all benders, till it brought me to my knees. And I'll speed that story up, but it was hell. And I came one night to the end of my rope. And up until this point, I hadn't really talked to God a lot. I was raised Catholic. I'm Irish Italian from Jersey. We have to be, I guess. I don't know. And I had to go to, I did all that stuff, like CC. I did all the traditional, like, would you do like CC communion, CC day? Remember that, right? Sister, mother, whatever. And I got confirmed, and I did all that, But here's the message I heard. God loves good girls. You gotta be good. You gotta be perfect. You gotta say the right thing. You gotta honor your mother and father. You can't do that. You can't do this. Don't have sex. I was like, whoa, man, I don't know. I can't handle that. And it was very much like, I just thought, well, God doesn't, I'm not a good girl, so God doesn't love me. Doesn't mean he hates me. I don't think God hated me. I just think he kind of wrote me off to like, oh, whatever. I didn't think much about it until that night. Till that night when I was dying. And I wanted my life. I wanted God to save my life. I was dying. And I got on my knees, and at this point I'm living with some dude, and I don't really like him. I don't even know him, man. I just moved in with guys, because it's cheaper, And I don't have any tools. I have no business being in a relationship. Let me tell you something. The tools that I have in a relationship is I know how to have sex, watch a movie, and fight. That's it. Not so much in that order either. And I know how to arouse jealousy, suspicion, and fear. I'm really good at that. You know, because that's how I can get your attention. That's it. That's all I got. So I have no business. So I'm living with this dude, and I get on my knees one night and I ask God to help me, please. And I don't know why. He must have thought I had a willing heart, because I've sponsored girls before. Like, I've asked God, I've begged God, and He won't remove the drink. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what it takes for anybody. I don't know when it stops for you. I don't. That night it stopped for me. Something in me changed. What happened was God showed me exactly who I was. And not everybody has an experience like that, and I get that. You know, I think we get our experiences the way we get them, to match who we are. And I got the experience the way that I did. And God showed me exactly who I was. I was unteachable. I was a brat. I was selfish and self-centered. I saw myself for exactly who I was and why I was in the position I was in. And I had nobody to blame but me. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't my mother's fault. It wasn't my father dying. It was me. Honestly, my father dying was a blessing, because my dad was suffering from this disease terribly. And I believe God relieved two people of this disease, him and me. You know, I've had a lot of people die in Alcoholics Anonymous. We get very selfish about death, you know. We think it has to do with us. But, so his dying saved me, you know. It woke me up, man. And I didn't come out of that experience like, you know, like a saint or anything, you know. I still didn't know how to not drink. But what happened was, when I tried to drink, after 2 or 3 beers or 2 or 3 of anything I drank, I just threw it up. And I couldn't get it down. And within 4 or 5 days, I was in an AA meeting. And I was up in Harrisburg. I was up in Harrisburg at the time. There was a clubhouse on 19th Street. And I started going there. I liked it. It was like smoky. It was like a bar. You know what I mean? Everybody was like sick and crazy. And I liked that. And I started going to meetings. And I'll tell you what, my last drink was October 23rd. I used the sobriety date November 15th because I still smoked pot. And I share this. I was a pothead every day. I thought, I'm going to smoke pot with my grandkids. See, because to me it was natural, and it was the earth. And honestly, man, I couldn't handle, I had to be stoned when I walked in here the first few times, man. I was like, whoa. Like, this is my life? Like, what is this? Like, what am I gonna do? Shit. But then I started listening, and then I started hearing some stuff. And then I started realizing this is where I'm supposed to be, you know? And I started hearing what you had to say to get a sponsor. And then I intuitively picked up that smoking weed was wrong. That I probably wasn't sober. Do you know it took me 4 months to get honest about that? I stopped after 3 weeks, but I could not get honest. Because when you're new, like, that 3 weeks is like a lot of time. And I'm not losing it for anybody. But when I hit that 4-month mark, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna drink and die if I don't tell someone and change my sobriety date. It's so silly now, but when you're new and that stuff is happening, it is so real, it is so scary, it is so, man, I was scared, you know? So, I got 12-step by 2 guys. I don't remember the second guy. The first guy's name was Dennis. There was no women that would approach me, you know, and that's okay. I make sure that I try to approach women, you know. And I see him every year at Sunlight of the Spirit. That's a conference that we have in York, PA, and he's there every year. I give him a big hug, man. I'm like, I don't know if I'd be here if it wasn't for you, you know. And he just took me out for coffee, and he bought me breakfast, and he gave me a big book, and he said, you need to find a woman, you need to go through the steps, and you need to go to a meeting every day. He said, as far as I can tell you, but go find a woman who's got it, who's done it. And I said, okay, and I went to York, Pennsylvania, and I was unemployable. Okay, I could not work in the restaurant business at this point. Now, I've had plenty of girls I sponsored who could stay in the restaurant business, no problem. I was not one of them. So I didn't have a job. I went to move in with my mother. So, you know what, that's not true. At that point, it was probably maybe like 3 months in that I was like, ugh. But at that point, I was so scared. And I felt like I was surrounded by wolves. And there was this part of me that just wanted to be like a 7-year-old girl. Like at that age of like innocence, when like you watched the Smurfs and ate cereal and built forts, you know? And like your biggest problem was like your brother, you know what I mean? Like, I wanted that feeling. I wanted that safeness, you know? So going home to my mom, I wanted that. I mean, once I was a few weeks in, I was like, ugh. But you know, at that moment, I wanted that. And I started going to meetings, and I started going up to a group called Keep It Green at York Hospital, still there. Another meeting called Meet and Eat, which still meets during the day at 12 noon. I went to 12 noon, and I went to a meeting in the evening. I went to 2 meetings a day for a year and a half. Because I'm really sick. I wanted to be here. I did. They said, get a sponsor. So I found this woman who I liked the way she dressed, I liked the way she talked. I asked her to sponsor me. You know? I've had 3 sponsors in Alcoholics Anonymous, and they've each taught me something. My first sponsor I had for a year, she was beautiful. She helped me trust a woman. She taught me about the fellowship. She really did. You know, she had nice little coffee outings. We did stuff. She did take me to the step to the best of her ability. You know, I don't remember having a life-changing experience. See, because what happened was I came into AA, and I can't go without a man. You know? So I found him, and I stalked him. And by now, I'm really good at it. So he doesn't even know he's getting stalked. He doesn't even know he's being trapped, you know? And within a couple weeks, he's asking me out for coffee. I'm good, I know. And we start dating, you know? And he's about 1.5 years sober. I'm about 4 minutes sober. And I just think he's the most spiritual man I've ever met, you know? How can it not be God? He's so spiritual, and he's been through the 12 steps, and he has a sponsor, and he actively sponsors guys. Have you ever tried to sell your dude to your sponsor? Isn't that the first thing that comes out of your mouth? He's in AA, he sponsors guys, he's been through the 12 steps. He's still sick as shit. And the more guys he sponsors, the sicker he is, so. I'm a big on don't date, don't try not to date in the rooms, at least in the rooms that you go to. So if it doesn't work out, you still want to be able to go back. But nobody listens, I get it. But I feel like I have to say it, you know, just to say it. I didn't listen. So, so I got into that relationship and we started dating. And I'm going to jump around here for the next 15 years. I'm going to jump around, so follow me, okay? I'm working with that sponsor. I'm with this guy. I think I'm in love, but we don't really get along. We fight a lot. We make up and break up a lot. I honestly believe that when I got sober, when you're in a relationship, it was going to be perfect because we're sober, right? It's worse. You know why it's worse? You can't get drunk. You can't get drunk. You can't get drunk in between the fights. You can't get drunk during the fight. You just can't get drunk. So you're just there feeling it, feeling all of it. It's a good time. So I can't figure out, and I told you the kind of tools that I have going into this situation. You know what I mean? And here's the thing, I don't know how to be kind and loving. I don't give a shit about you. I don't care what you feel, I don't care how your day was, I don't care what you're doing, I don't care. I do not have a naturally helpful spirit. Some people do, don't get me wrong, there are people in AA that do. I've seen them, I've seen a lot of them, a few. You know what I mean? But if I see an old lady in Walmart who needs help, I'm like, God, I hope somebody comes along and helps her. Like my natural inclination, you know, I don't naturally like, oh, let me do that for you. You know what I mean? I've now been around where that's my first thought. My second thought, God comes in and says, maybe you should do it. I debate for a few minutes, like where I gotta be, am I on time, do I have enough time? And then it trumps, and then I say I gotta go do it. So it's a lot better than it used to be, you know? So I don't care about this guy, and I wanna care, but I don't. And I wouldn't say I don't care, I don't understand. So we go on, and we get in this relationship. At about a year sober, I really feel like I'm lacking something in my program. And I hear a gentleman speak, and he actually, the guy I'm dating is working with him, and he's going through the 12 steps with him. And I sit in one day on the 7th step, and I like what he has to say. And I realized, like, I don't have that. So I asked this guy, I said, can you take me through the steps? And he became my second sponsor. And he was instrumental in teaching me how to work with others. He's great. He's still on the firing lines of Alcoholics Anonymous. He's sober 20, I don't know, ridiculous years. And he is active. You know, he's still out there getting guys off the street, doing what he has to do. And he taught me how to do that. I mean, we went into hotel rooms. We went, you know, everywhere. And just, you know, I got girls, and I started working with them and taking them through the book and taking them through the steps. And at that point in my sobriety, I needed to learn how to do that. You know? I needed to learn how to do that. I needed to learn how to care for somebody else. And that was a journey in itself, because at first I didn't give a shit about you. I didn't care if you got sober. I was doing this for me. Eventually that flipped, not without a spiritual lesson and some pain, but eventually that flipped. And I started loving the girls that I sponsor, and I started wanting them to get sober. And I started wanting to see the change in their life. And he taught me how to do that, you know? But in my personal life, I'm with my guy, and we get pregnant, because that's a good idea, you know? So we get, because we don't get along, so we're gonna have a baby. And so I get pregnant, and I'm 27 years old, and I'm a year and a half sober, and I'm ready. I'm ready for this next phase of my life. I'm ready for this journey. And I remember my grand sponsor, and he's passed away. His name is Tom Flynn. And I was very close with Tom. And Tom pulled me aside, and he said, I want to tell you something. So what's that, Tom? He said, I want you to be prepared to raise this child by yourself. And I was like, I thought I just got an omen. You know what I mean? I'm like, what? What do you mean? And what he was doing was he was preparing me for the unselfishness that it takes to raise a child. See, because at this point, like I said, I got in a relationship for somebody to blame. If I was unhappy, it was your fault. If I didn't like something, it was because of you. I was very big in that in a relationship. You were there to entertain me, you were there to make me feel good, you were there to make me happy. See, because I like to feel good, that's why I drank. I'm only here as long as I'm here because Alcoholics Anonymous makes me feel good. Because working with others makes me feel good. Because I found true joy in this program. Do you think on a Saturday night at 9:30 at night I'm going to be up here? Well, yeah, I kind of do. But do you know what I mean? You know? I do want to be here. I really do. But my point is that there's a lot of other things that I can fill my life with. So we have a baby, we still don't get along, and I leave him because I hate him. So then he asked me to marry him. So I said, okay, because I want a ring. And I want to get married, you know. And that's how I currently met the sponsor I have today. I was introduced to her, and she talks about her marriage, and something about her really attracted me, and I said, look, this guy asked me to marry him, and like I hate him, and like we have a kid and stuff, and I just moved out, but we're gonna get married. And she said, this is what I want you to do. She said, I want you to go back. And she said, I want you to go back and I want you to do some things for me. She said, I want you to treat that man like a king. And what that means is, she goes, when you're with him, you are to listen to what he has to say and you are to pay attention. You're not to call him a bad name to his face or behind his back with any of his girlfriends, or any of your girlfriends. And his, no, I'm just kidding. When the trash needs to go out, you take it out. When his cell phone rings, you don't ask him who's on it. When he walks out the door, you don't ask him where he's going. You take out the trash and you pay your own rent. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I said, he is gonna play me for a fool. She goes, you know what, if he does, it should be very clear whether you should be spending the rest of your life with him. She goes, but if he's a man about God's business and he's on the path, he'll intuitively pick up on what you're doing and he will follow. Which means he will let you know who's on the phone. He will let you know where he's going when he walks out the door. He will listen when you talk. He will show you respect. He will learn to love the things you like. And man, for the first time in my life, I heard a solution to a problem that I've been having all my life. You know? So I went home and I started to do those things. And I'll tell you what, I didn't do those things like real gracefully, man. You know? I'd like make him his coffee in the morning. I'd be like, here. You know? Men love ice cream at night. I don't know what that is about. They love their ice cream. I get ice cream for him every night. I pack his lunch for him. He was a contractor, so I listened about soffit. Yeah. Got it. You know. I started to do those things. Honestly, I learned a lot. Actually, I've resided houses and done ceilings, and I went out and worked with him. He was like, you actually know what you're doing. I was like, I've been listening, man. I became a little junior contractor. So he intuitively picked up, man, and he followed. And you know what? We walked down the aisle, we had another child together, and we had a beautiful AA marriage. For a good number of years, things were really good. I learned how to be a mother, I learned how to be a wife, you know? You get up when you don't want to get up, you do things you don't want to do. And I continue to sponsor women through that. I brought my kids to meetings. When I went through postpartum depression, my sponsor said the solution's still the same. And AA works for postpartum depression too. You know? And I'm not saying if you have really serious, don't go see somebody, but I'm just, you know, that's my experience. I started to live this to the best of my ability. So, I'll jump ahead real quick because I want to wrap up. I'm kind of going over time here. That's a little fast. I only have like another half hour, don't worry. I had to get a job in Alcoholics Anonymous. Real quick talk about this. I had to get a job in AA. I was, you know what I was qualified to do? I was qualified to answer phones at a dog grooming shop for $6 an hour. That was it. That's all I was qualified to do, and that's what I did. I had to hold freaking cats. They're like, I hated it. You know, and that's what I had to do. And that's $6 an hour job. And I didn't know how to listen. I didn't know how to work. They said, show up. Show up early. What? You know, or show up on time. Let's try that. You know. The boss would be like, hey, can you fax this? I'd be like, Why don't you fax it? You just walk past the, I get pissed, and my sponsor would be like, hey, you're supposed to fax things. That's what they pay you to do. It was like light bulb moments, all in early sobriety. Like, oh, I fax things, you know what I mean? They didn't want me to chew gum. If you give me a piece of gum, you'll find out why. But I was pissed. I really felt I should be allowed to chew gum. Just little things like that. But that $6 an hour job turned into 8, 10, 12, 16. I work in the mortgage business. I worked through the crash in '08. When everybody else was going out of business, I stayed employed. I haven't had to apply or interview for a job in 10 years. Every job I've gotten has been offered to me by a phone call. I got my dream. I work from home today. I make great money. I have a nice setup, at home. It's a little adjustment. You start to talk to yourself a lot more. And not shower as much as you probably would if you were going into an office. So I'm making it. The last week I made myself get up and shower. I'm like, why don't we shower, Jane? Like, let me try this, But what a blessing, man. Alcoholics Anonymous, God's given me that stuff, That marriage ended, not because I didn't love him, not because I still don't love him today, but because he picked up a drink, and I love being sober more than anything. He's a great dad, drunk or sober. I'll tell you what, he does the best he can. We do the best we can. I don't have any ill feelings towards him. Absolutely not. I started dating in sobriety. That's been interesting. When you're divorced, 40 with 2 kids, it was weird. It was weird. But I'll tell you what, I'm learning about myself still. I used to think that magnetic draw to somebody was God. I know now it's the devil. Because the only way the devil can get you to go out with him is to draw you in. You actually have to choose God. You actually have to choose the light. Because you would never pick the devil if you had the choice. And I'm using those terms because you can call it the disease, you can call it darkness, you can call it whatever it wants to make you feel comfortable. It's just in my head, that's what I had to understand. So in this dating world, I get these magnetic draw to these men, and then I'm like, oh, that's right. I dated and married you and dated you again and married and dated. Okay, right. But I'm insane, still. My disease will still want to, take over. So, I have a beautiful life today. I have 2 beautiful sons. One is nuts and hilarious and thinks he knows how to drive. And the other one is very smart and very kind of spiritual and whips out these very spiritual lines that kind of make me look dumb, and they're wonderful. And I'm blessed to have them. And I am generally happy today. I wake up in a good mood. I love my life. I love the women in my life. It is such a great feeling to know. And I went through that very difficult time, that divorce and bankruptcy and all those things. I walked through all that in sobriety. And guess what? Alcoholics Anonymous was there the whole time. They picked me up and they carried me through all of it. I had one time where my sponsees had to come get me, and they're like, we're taking you to a meeting. I'm so glad I'm not too sober to be able to do that, to be able to not break down in front of them. I share them with everything. I don't try to put up any auras that I've got something figured out. The only thing I have figured out is that prayer works. And I spend a half hour with God every day, and I pray throughout the day. And when I do that, I'm great. So I hope somebody tonight, I hope you got something out of it. I had a good time. I hope you did too. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you very much, Jane. One more time for Jane for coming out. So thank you. We head over to Perkins afterwards around 10:05. Next week's speaker is Rebecca P. coming in from New York. We will double the coffee amount. I see it ran short tonight. Sorry about that. We've been dumping out a lot of it lately. What else do I got to remember or tell you? 8 p.m. we usually have the food and fellowship, so if you get here early, that's great. And please, no smoking on the church property. We have a nice way of closing if you care to join us. Thank you all for coming out.